Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Adobe Live. You got me, your host Luke Choice for today. I'm lucky to be joined by Tanya Vidge, who is the Senior Staff UX Designer at Adobe Illustrator. And we're going to talk about one of the most exciting things to hit Illustrator in a long time. It is Turntable. I'm pretty sure most people know about it by now. It's been everywhere and it's been causing a lot of excitement. So we're very excited to have Tanya here today and take us through some of the processes behind the development of the program, the app, and really like connect with the community here because it is still in beta and we really like are pushing for community feedback in order to drive the tool to its, final state. And that's going to be, a really important part of this process. So, I just thought I'd give a little bit of an introduction to Tanya and just sort of give a background and then jump in and let her, talk about what she's going to run through today. But she's been working at Adobe for 15 and a half years, and 9 of those years has been on the Adobe Illustrator team. She knows the app inside and out, so I'm excited to learn from her today. It started out designing on the desktop app, then helped shape the Illustrator on the web, and now she's leading AI efforts in the Illustrator ecosystem. So she has worked on features like the Properties panel, helped co-create the Quick Pen tool, which is actually a killer addition. I love it. Generative Shape Fill, Generative Expand, and now obviously a new turntable feature. She has degrees in both architecture and industrial design, so that's all. That's a lot of education there that I don't have. So I'm excited to learn from her. But also on the side, we're not working on AI and Illustrator, making ceramic pottery, another great skill that I've actually wanted to get into, but there's not enough hours in the day. But sketching intricate patterns, which I'm sure plays well into Illustrator, and exploring historic buildings for inspiration. Welcome, Tanya. I'd love to hear, a little bit more about yourself, how you're feeling, and then share a little bit more about what you want to share today in terms of Turntable.
Thank you so much, Luke, and thank you firstly for having me here and letting me share the stage with you. This is my first Adobe Live, so I'm excited about it. And just a little correction, I've been in Adobe for 9 years. 15 and a half is generally my design journey
Sorry, I misread that.
overall. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm happy to talk more about Illustrator because I've been here for 9 years, like I said, and I think there was a time when I was living and breathing Illustrator, knowing every little skeleton that is buried in the application. So it's been a journey it's an app which is like 38 years old now. We just celebrated the
Yeah.
38th birthday of Illustrator this year. And it's such a beautiful application that has been curated over the years. And there is still so much you can do in it. There's so much you can still innovate in it. That's what keeps us going as a team, and I'm representing my whole Illustrator team. I'm based out of India, and the team is also based out of India with me. And I belong in the design team, like Luke mentioned, and we're a group of designers who love creating amazing experiences for graphic designers, fellow designers who are watching this. And we love to represent the community because, yeah, it's an honor to create a graphic design tool as a graphic designer. So it's an amazing place to be in. And today we're going to talk about Turntable. I think it's been such a viral roller coaster 1 week ever since we released the beta out there publicly, and the kind of love and reception and amazing, fascinating work that people have been doing has been such awe-inspiring for all of us. We've been looking at incredible reels, Reddit, and all of these other forums. And I'm going to talk to you more about how the journey of Turntable began and where we are right now and what is upcoming as well. Um, I hope that's good enough for
Yeah, no,
today.
I think it's an interesting point about, how far the application can continue to go because I think Turntable, really is another level up for what you can do with like vector illustrations, and it extends the app so much further than what, people have been using for the last 38 years. So I think when you can see that there is still so much that can be done, especially in this fast-paced time that we're living in, The hits just keep coming. So for me, I've, had a lot of experience in 3D design as well, that, having this ability to take, multiple viewpoints of an illustration is really like game changing for a lot of people. Because, 3D can be a big learning curve, but when they've invested so much time in 2D artwork that suddenly it is a 3D space, I think it's really interesting. So yeah, I think a few points that I'd love to get out. Just, the community to get in touch with us. We're everywhere. We have people constantly like searching conversations everywhere. Reddit, Illustrator, Discord. We're on User Voice. We have the Adobe Community Forum. All these places we're going to hear your thoughts, your feedback, and we're going to do our best to really like respond diligently. There's a lot of experienced people. The pre-release community is heavily impacting the direction of all the features that are developed. And, if you do want to get involved in that, there is, a pathway to that. So please like reach out if you want to like get connected and have a bigger hand in how these features are developed. So, um, you know, and these sessions that we're having today with people inside the team to share more about the insights of the internal workings, are really important. And we're trying to like make sure that we show up this way. So, without further ado, I think, I'd love to get into Tanya showing us a little bit more about Turntable and ultimately like we can kick off with like how do you locate it? I know a lot of people have sort of struggled with finding the beta. So if you want to like
Absolutely.
start there with a simple sort of step, then we can move in from there.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's those of you who haven't been able to find where this crazy feature resides, it's in the Adobe Illustrator beta app, which is located differently. So if you open your Creative Cloud desktop application where you see all your apps, you need to navigate to apps, which is the second button on your left rail. When you click on it, you usually will land up in all apps. There is a button next to it on the top rail, which is called beta. When you click on that, you'll see all the beta apps. The unique identifier of all the beta apps is the blue icon. That means you are working in a beta app. So you'll find Adobe Illustrator, you'll see an install button here. You click on it, it installs, and it will land up in your applications. So once you launch that, you will arrive, which looks like any other Illustrator. The difference here, you'll see the beta tag on the top with the latest release. And that's it. I mean, there's nothing different than a desktop app. It's just that this is a place where our team tries sending out early feature work or improvements that we want people to test it out for us, for them to give us feedback, for us to develop it further. That's why it's called beta. And once we are having 100% confidence that this is all good, no more bugs or issues showing up, we're ready to, push it to the production or the app that you actually use. So this is the Illustrator beta. And let's dive into the world of Turntable. The inspiration that the team had when we were talking about last year about like what is it that we can use AI to speeden up and accelerate your workflows. One of the most common things that we've heard over the years is this painstaking task of redrawing a character or even an artifact which in multiple viewing angles. And that is actually a lot of painstaking work that people do, and especially character animators and even other designers as well. When you're creating packaging and all of that, you really need to visualize your work in different angles. And maybe your client needs it, or you require it for you to visualize it in different angles. And this is where the team started to look at, especially for character design. I think that was like the core thing that we were looking at. There were two aspects that we thought of. One was there is this need of obviously visualizing your art in different angles. The second was visualizing the art in different poses. So we tackled the first one with Turntable, and that's what you guys saw in the last year Max sneak. And the response that we received was overwhelmingly good. I don't think any sneak gave us that much of love. and excitement from the crowd, and that lingered on. It just didn't die on that day. And that actually gave us like full confidence that okay, we are in the right direction. People want this, people want to see how this, and they see it valuable as well for their workflows. And hence, the team started exploring, because the artwork in Illustrator is 2D essentially. How do we use AI or the tech that we have to assume or to predict depth and form of a 2D illustration? And that's where the journey with researchers and internally with the engineering team we started working on, and the tech further and further got involved. So you saw a sneak where I think people felt that this was jigged, but it was actually the code that people had developed back then, which was working on limited kind of artifacts back then. And we took this whole year to then take it ahead and polish it a little so that it works on more than those two characters of dragon and the warrior. And so moving on, I'm going to give you a quick glimpse and also going to walk you through of how this feature currently in beta works. The fun thing that, and like Luke was saying, we really notice and we take care and we observe all the feedback that you give us as a community in all different channels, whether it's Reddit, whether it's Insta, whether it's Twitter. And this is one code that I think struck the chord for me the most when it came to Turntable. A really nice user or Illustrator user for us mentioned that, this is Turntable is one place they actually felt like it's actually should help users. I think there's a lot of misconception like AI is going to like take over the creation aspect of, or, the love of creation of, illustrations. But what we've been trying internally and doing our best is making sure that we are assisting you doing it. And that's where Turntable became what it became as a feature that will accelerate your redrawing experience. Whether you use it as a reference art, whether you actually use it to visualize what that asset could look like in different views, it's up to you how you want to consume it, but it gives you a great starting point. So the first thing, like I can like I'll go with this as an example because I love this example a lot to demo. When you have an illustration like this, a lot of people said, I saw it on Reddit and other forums as well, that, you select an artwork and, you don't know where Turntable are that people are all raving about. The reason why you are unable to see it right now in the first beta that we launched, we had this a little caveat that it needs to be a grouped object. So if you have a selection where different parts not grouped together, like this one, make sure that you group them. You can do it by Command G, or there's an option to group it as well, your actions. Once it's grouped, you'll see Turntable showing up. So you can access Turntable in your Properties panel under Transform section. You can also access it through the Objects menu, where you will see Turntable right here. If you are a control bar user, you will also find it in the control bar on the top. So either of these places are good. I will click on this to see if it works magic here or not.
Yeah, actually, like when I first started using it, I thought I didn't have access to it yet because I had a blank canvas that I wasn't, nothing to touch. So it was kind of like, oh, actually, like it really helps to have an image ready to go to work with. And then it kind of you can't miss the turntable buttons from there. But I always, my default now is to go to help and search, for tools. I actually use that quite a lot. So yeah, it helps me locate where it is embedded in the tab menus and everything. But yeah, I also want to like point out that Turntable for me has been one of those recurring conversations in the, particularly in the Reddit community that people are constantly like just popping up, random days, just asking like, hey, where is it? Like, is it coming? And then someone said one day asking about it, and then I was like, oh, just patience. And then the next day it was here. So it was it was a really like nice moment to be able to go back to somebody and say like, well, actually, you can go and check it out now.
Yeah, it was quite kind of a surprise for a lot of people.
Yeah,
And we weren't anticipating it to really go this big. We were keeping it quiet when we had done the public beta,
yeah,
but it's amazing to see people really trying it out on different assets, working, not working, sharing their candid feedback. It's amazing to see how much they've discovered without us telling them how to discover it or how to, use it. So that also gives us a little nice cue of, how easy or difficult it is on certain cases and how easy it is or difficult it is to find it as well. So we're
yeah.
taking all the notes.
Yeah,
Um,
I particularly like how people immediately are sharing ideas of like how it's going to change their work, what they can do with it now. I had a back and forth with one person on Threads. And they're like, actually, I can bring this into After Effects and,
yeah,
create an animation. And then within a day, they'd shared it with me, and it was already like, setting things off in people that they, could really like see how it would improve their work. And like you say, it's more about like assisting the creator rather than replacing it. And we're really like conscious about that at Adobe is creating like AI tools that assist the creation of your own personal assets. That's why I think this is a really strong case for the community to get involved because it is using your original creations
yes.
as the inspiration to build off. So yeah, but I'm excited to see how this guy looks.
So am I. So yeah, like I said, although right now we have grouping as a first checkpoint in a way for you to see turntable, but that's not going to be always. In future, we're going to open it up to make selection as well. But for now, the beta app, you really have to group whatever you have as a collection in order for turntable to show up and access it and see it in action. So now that we have done the generations of different views, you will observe that there is this bar that shows up at the bottom of this illustration. In case you don't see it, it's called bar, contextual bar, which you can turn it on here in your windows, and you'll see it again. Again, if you feel that these kind of skeleton views that you see are, kind of annoying, you may, in some cases, see even anchor points showing up. Another trick that I do is go to go to View, and I do, where is it? Hide edges. So if you do Command Edge, that kinds of takes away all that
Hmm.
noise, and then you can actually focus and see the artwork in action. Now that we have done that, this is the slider. It's a slider which lets you rotate around an axis. And we've got up and down, which are tilt. I'll show you how that works. So now that we have this, okay, we've predefined certain angles right now in the beta builds. It's a 15-degree kind of like uh, distance from each other.
Hmm.
So it's a gap of 15 degrees. So you have 15, 30, 45, 60, 75. And don't worry if you see a gray background like that. It's just a glitch. The team is working on it. Sometimes it just creates it. I'll show you a trick how to like remove it in case you don't know how
Yeah,
to
I was going to say,
once you've
actually,
added.
I think that's the good thing about today is, when people run into these issues, it's like these are things to sort of feedback with the team. And it's also great to be able to reference it here and know that, like, that's not unexpected right now. It is beta. These are the sort of issues. So I think
Absolutely.
troubleshooting is a really, like, great thing for today.
Yep. Definitely. And if you have any questions, please, the chat is there. I would love to like answer any of them, like in case you're if you've encountered something abnormal, then what I'm showing, I'm happy to answer those as well. So like you can see 90, we have till 120 on one side of the axis. Similarly, if you go on the other side, we've got same distance, but on the other side, so it's minus 120. So this is one kind of like a rotation that we've done, a 120 to 120. The other rotation that you can do is elevation up, where it's almost like you're turning the camera up. So the view is up, and now you rotate, you can see the same object in this elevation. If you bring it down again, this is almost like a bird's eye view sort of a thing. Not exactly bird's eye view, but the camera is on top. And you can do similar rotations like this. So let's go back here. And this is a button called reset, which it resets wherever you started from. This is your original art. And we've been very, very careful to not touch your original art, no matter it comes as a package with these rotations. But if you look at layers panel, it will be intact. All your paths, your appearances are all intact here. Only in the rotations are those additional views that get created. We do not touch your input art at all. So if you ungroup this, you'll come back to your original art. The next idea, I think this was amazing because we have a really active pre-release community, and we were working with them initially early this year on, learning more about how the current experience is, what are kind of capabilities would they prefer. And the first drop or the first private beta that we did with them, they showed us like really crazy work and where it was not working
Yeah.
and what their expectations was. They were selecting, or they were using input art which was like amazingly, like they were waiting for magic to happen.
Mm.
And we had to tell them the magic will happen slowly. Let's take one step at a time.
Yeah.
And one of the core usability issues that they had early on pointed us as like, I have this rotation, I keep rotating this selection. Now I want to like compare these, poses or the views that are getting created. And for me to do that, I'm all dragging or I'm duplicating this. And then I have to click on turntable again. I have to get the slider again. It's so much of painful experience for me to really see the whole plethora of views that you've created. So hence, like we took that and we did couple of updates. The first one was like insert view, which means whatever view you like, it duplicates the view for you on the side on its own. So you don't have to manually all drag and duplicate it on canvas. So if I like, for example, this view and I say insert view, it'll get added on the right because I chose the right direction for it to get added. And here, as in when I select another one, I can get added. So if I go back to the one which this
Mm.
monster and I get added. So what I do usually is, because I've been also stress testing this feature myself, whenever I come into encounter the situation where I'm like adding all these views together, I want to see them all together in a carousel view. Uh, One thing that I do, obviously everyone has their own way of using Illustrator. I'm not saying what I do is the best way, but I use the magic wand, which is here on your toolbar, or the shortcut is Y. So the magic wand, really what it does, like if you see the settings, I make the tolerance 0 and it's the fill color. So as soon as I select this, anything that is gray gets highlighted. And let me see. Yeah, and that's how you delete it. So that's
It's
a quick
funny.
way.
I've never used it. I've never really used the magic wand in Illustrator. I like that you point out that everyone has their own way. I feel like everyone's always worried about sharing their processes for
Yeah,
fear of judgment, but I think we all have,
exactly.
everybody has their own way of doing it. And yeah, I think that's one of the things I've had to get over, like being in this role now, is like not being afraid to like talk about how I like to do things.
Exactly. That's why I started that disclaimer. This is how I do it. It
Yeah.
may not be the perfect way, but luckily the generations that I'm getting or the views that I'm getting, I don't have that gray in my artwork, and hence I'm able to
Hmm.
easily delete it. If it
Hmm.
was present in my artwork, it gets tricky, then I think it's not the right tool to use it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, for now, at least the artwork that I've been using, I've been very mindful not to use a gray art so that I can use this and look into it. So with one click of Turntable, if you go and I've already pre-curated it, this is what the view I love.
Mm.
using and testing with. So I started with this. So you can see with one kind of an input instance, I actually got these are 50 instances that you get if you start like placing them all out. And even though you are restricted with 120 right now, a workaround that I do, because again, I'm testing it, is that I duplicate this instance, I ungroup it, and then I apply turntable on it again. So if I do that, now this is the starting point for turntable, and I can get all the back poses now.
Yeah, I actually
So
figured that would be a great way to do it. Yeah, I hadn't have thought that it's just about because when they do insert view, like you still have the turntable slider, but if you ungroup and then group again, you go again. I think that's a
yes.
good tip.
So let's see if this gives us good output.
Yeah, I think like when you can see that whole sheet, you just imagine the amount of time that would have taken a traditional process, and it's just created such a like consistency that you can really like refine if you need, but it gives you so much to work with, for the traditional workflows. So, yeah, I'm just
And the
curious, like if anyone in the chat has ever created something similar to this and how long that might have taken, but yeah, it's a game changer.
I'm so happy to hear that because I know it's not perfect. There are issues in sometimes quality, sometimes, so certain details get missed when you are rotating in this. But yes, we are still working on the tech. It's been evolving every day, it evolves. And we are testing on a daily basis with the newer upgrades that we see coming in. So be assured that, maybe right now it may not look perfect, but that's why it's in beta. The minute we make it perfect, we will definitely ship it in the main app.
Awesome.
So now that we have this, now you can see that for me to now get all these rotations that I was unable to see previously.
That's great.
So that's the hack that I do, and I'm
Yep.
happy to share it for you to get the whole 180 degrees in case you are interested in looking at. So this is one way of us using turntable. I've also like worked or tested in on other things where, things like where the details are a little different. They're more finer, like you can see here, the kind of shapes and the detail that I'm working in is different than the previous asset that I had used. So here, if I already have used turntable here, so I can easily show you. But yeah, like I said, it's only one way turntable works. It's not that it's regenerating again and again. So if you've used turntable once, you click on turntable, the views will be restored for you here.
Yeah, I think it'd
And
be interesting to talk about, I guess, where the limitations might exist when it comes to the kinds of things you can apply turntable to. So I know it is kind of like what exists in real life. So some people might draw very like abstracted characters or things, but
yes.
if you could sort of speak to like what plays best with turntable and where things might get a little funky.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it'd be great to sort of hear a bit more about that.
Absolutely. And that's the next thing I want to touch
Oh, okay,
upon
I'm jumping
because
ahead. Sorry.
no, that's perfectly fine. I am happy that I'm on track, that I have anticipated this already.
Yeah.
Um, so this is just an example of, if you really want to make an animation of a bird flying, this is it. There could be certain gaps here and there, but at least as a starting point, it's still good because I'm going to now zoom in and show you like the crazy amount of
Oh, wow, yeah.
views that you can get. Imagine
Yeah.
animating this. You just need these frames, and I would love for people who are being using After Effects to try this and tell me how this crazy thing can fly away.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I actually love
and
working with birds in my artwork. So I actually already have started playing around with, generating that and then inserting views and creating a collage of different bird poses, but as just the sort of base to then illustrate on top of. So I
yeah.
find it just really helpful to get a template to work with tons of different poses because I'm usually scouring, Instagram bird pics and then tracing them. So I think like
Exactly.
just quickly and easily just manipulating a very simple shape to create different poses and then building that on top of my own style. I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, I think just imagining these poses and these views, you really need to be up your game to, you have really great references available, like Luke, you said,
Hmm.
for you to imagine this. And that's why I think even though this current beta app and the feature quality that we have may not be at crazy par, but at least it gives you some sort of like a reference art for you to at least refer.
Yeah.
If you want to redraw your art, you're more than welcome to do so till the time we perfect this. But at least gives you a great starting point.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly how I view it at the moment. I think even though the results are pretty spectacular at this point, and it's only going to get better from this point.
yes, it will. So yeah, moving on to the other thing that we were talking about, like where does this feature kind of like shines? And where we know that it will work a little more flawlessly, even though, details and sometimes certain hiccups can still happen. But what kind of artwork is best suited for Turntable to do a great job? So one of the few things that one needs to look into and be mindful of is the artwork needs to be really clear and isolated. If you have backgrounds, if you have other entities attached to it, the output may not give you the best results because, like I said, if it has to define, if it needs to add depth and form, then it needs to understand the object a little more closely. And if there are things that it doesn't understand, it may give you like odd results or give you certain surprises or certain, unexpected surprises as well that you're like, what happened? This is not what I was expecting. So I'll walk you through things which if you can if this what the system can predict the best and what the system will guesswork in their selections. So if you have assets like these, there is um, a bear and three balloons and a star, you're able to associate that these are these entities and it's not abstract in any which way. You could select turntable and see it rotating. So even if it has this base, which is the black ellipse, it is able to retain it in the views. In some views, yes, there are loss of details and the team is working on it. The team is aware, and we are noticing wherever users are also giving us more examples where things are happening. It really helps us to understand the blind spots that the tech may not be able to right now handle and we need to work more upon. Things like which have a real world object reference. I think this is the core of Turntable. If you are using an illustration which has some real world reference, like a face, a human, an apple, maybe, some sort of like eyes and mouth, it can understand and it can then do its best to add appropriate volume. When I say volume, I mean like the mass to that 2D
Hmm.
object.
Hmm.
And in this case, even if you have, let me just turn off edges here as well. Sorry. Even if you have an art which is something like this, and you can see there are, too many strokes and, there are a lot of different types of detailing happening in this. But because it still is able to identify it as a face, it will do its best to, actually make it like a real world, sort of like a mass edition. So if you rotate,
Mm.
yes, it can make it like a face. It knows there are two ears. It is not going crazy and wonky. And even at the back, because there were lines, it will lose some craziness for it to fluidly continue. So the edges, what it sees, it tries to continue at the backside of your illustration. May or may not be suitable, but that's something you can edit in case it's not what you'll want. So yeah, it added like a proportionate mass to this object. If you see an apple like this, again, this is a very common example that I saw on social where, there were assets that people were using with shadows or maybe with certain like highlighting. And when they were rotating it like this, they would see, okay, something is off. It is not honoring the shadow that I made, or what is
Hmm.
it doing? It's going crazy. I think it's because the way it identifies shadow is little different. If you've added a highlight and it's towards the edge, it'll try to, like I said, continue on the other side as well. So it's the way right now it's reading your artwork. Not that this will always be the case, but would love to hear from people if this is something and what is it that they want to expect when they see something like this. What is it that they want to see on the other side of the apple? Like, what should it happen? Like, should it do this or should it do something else?
Mm.
So it will inform us to tweak it a bit more so that it's more usable for you guys.
Yeah, I guess like even my first sort of thoughts were about, if you could create, the keyframes and then sort of like bridge those together, like a traditional sort of tween in between and then, sort of dictating where it ends and where it begins. I'm sort of like getting ahead of myself here as well. Like I'm sure you guys are sort of figuring it out, but that was kind of my initial thoughts was like, oh, if I could set the beginning and end and then it sort of knew like maybe where to keep things in the middle, but
I
yeah.
think that's a great idea, Luke. I think I will definitely take a note of that because, yeah, that gives you more control as a designer if you know what you want and the tech can help you bridge that gap for you.
Yeah,
So that's a great idea. Definitely would love to tinker on it
because I imagine you'd all
next week.
you'd run Turntable and then tweak the last one and then run it again maybe, and it sort of like can sort of redo the in-betweens. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one because we've been talking internally about how, the topic of overrides, where,
mm,
sometimes people are expecting, maybe I want to change my input art a little. And then, will the views also get updated? So
hmm,
currently it does not work like that because it doesn't work like how the blend tool works essentially, where
yeah, yeah,
you can adjust the two extremities at any
hmm,
point and it will
yeah,
propagate those change.
hmm,
This is a little different tech, and hence it needs a fresh input every time it has to create those views. It
yeah,
can't be that you're changing one and it adapts on its own.
yeah. There has to
So
be like a thought process happening. Yeah.
yeah. Something like this because like I said, I've been also stress testing. I tried a lot of mascots because like artworks like mascots where you are kind of like convoluting that abstraction, but also a bit of realism sort of a thing.
Hmm.
And here also, surprisingly, it did a good job in
Yeah.
at least assuming that mass. So it understood it's an avocado and it made that curve for you.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, but yeah, the face you can see the cheeks are a little protruding too much,
Yep.
just like mine right now. Uh, but I guess yeah, it's trying to imagine it. It's trying to make a face out of the avocado seed and not make it flattened, and hence it's
Hmm.
done some sort of like imagination there happening.
I mean, it kind of looks like it's trying to create a nose from the cheeks or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So these are things like they're fun to explore and just see how much you can stretch it to see, what craziness the model will give you.
Yeah,
Um,
because these are great sort of use cases for a lot of people that do branding projects where, you create a series of assets, for different occasions, different sort of lockups. And I think just having that sort of quick generations allows you to sort of mock things up really quickly and easily. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of blows my mind that it understands to make the face rounded at all and like the back of the avocado kind of looks, correct. So, yeah, it just I'm completely shocked seeing a lot of the community tests already. I think, like you're saying, the community impact on this where it took fire on Instagram and everywhere, and I think everyone was just amazed at like how quickly and easy you could create something and really like push your illustrations further.
Absolutely. I think I've been so wowed by seeing how it's fascinating how people have, used, and I think it's a good segue for me to like give you some glimpse because
Yeah.
I've been really like reposting all of these reels on my account myself, and I have this whole folder of Turntable now in my highlights that I'm actively collecting how amazingly like people are stress testing certain things where they're saying, okay, this is working, this is not working,
Yep.
and the amount of uh, imagination people have put in here in trying to test it is amazing. Like I've been looking at these examples and it only is inspiring. Like this is just the beginning for
Yeah, I mean
us.
it's interesting. I've seen a lot of these out there. I think in particular that one in the bottom left corner, I was really shocked when I saw, you know, just the variation in sort of style, just really
Yeah,
like the consistency was great across that one.
I
Um,
loved it
yeah, I just
myself.
think it's a great way to sort of get people's character illustrations sort of, some really good exposure.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's really humbling to see how far people are taking this, and at a very nascent state the tech is, and still they are surprised with the kind of outputs it's giving. So it's a good feeling for the whole team, and the whole team is like actively looking at these. Now I'll come to things where I've heard, even I've seen on social, and as the team is also aware that there are these scenarios where Turntable can, give you unpredictable results. And there are these scenarios which I will go through. One of them is when you have like simple shapes. This is where Turntable is unable to understand how much depth it needs to add. Because are you looking at extrusion? Are you looking at this is not a 3D effect that we have in Illustrator where it you are in control of how much depth it is, and other facets of rotation. But things like this, a lot of people who would have selected something like this and tried turntable would have encountered some sort of an error like this. So there are two, three types of errors that show up. One of them is when the illustration is too simple for it to understand what is going to be the depth accuracy, and hence it gives you a warning. It doesn't say that you can't do turntable on it, but the results can be odd. So if I go ahead and let's see what it's able to, and it's simple shapes, abstract compositions, open paths, and these kind of things sometimes will give you this error, but you're more than welcome to still go ahead and see what this feature can let you do.
Yeah, I've actually done those myself where I've been trying to like see how far I can sort of play around with it, and ran into that issue as well. So I still hit go ahead and see what happens just to sort of help get a better understanding of what works better with it, how I should think about planning ahead with what I can use. And I do a lot of typographic work, so I'm curious to see how the type sort of works. I've seen some people already doing tests with, stacked drop shadows and rotations, and I think it's really cool to, see typography being tested in this.
The typography comes a little tricky. I'll come to it, but let's see
Yeah.
what this one has created. So like you can see, it added some sort of a depth, but it's not perfect because it doesn't really know what this object should be like and how like the open path also needs to be there. It's just
Hmm.
added like a continuous thing. I don't think so. This is the best uh, place or for us to think how turntable can really make a difference here,
Hmm.
may not be the best idea to give that as an input. When it comes to text, like you said, this is a live text that I've grouped so that I can show
Okay.
you turntable.
Yep.
And what it does is similarly, because it doesn't know how much depth is required and what is the expectation, it will do some sort of it, but it'll add its own default depth, which
Mm.
may or may not be what the user intends. And of course, you don't have any control on the depth or like in this case, because it was black. fill, and
Hmm.
hence the extrusion is also black. So not sure if this is something which is really usable.
Yeah, I'd probably stick with 3D extrude.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think for these things, 3D effects that we have in Illustrator are the best
Hmm.
solutions that we have, where you have more control. Like even this is a
Yeah.
outline text, and yeah, because I have the stroke as black, so it has given it some black extrusion, but yes, not the best
Mm.
possible assets to try
Yeah.
turntable on. The other things where it goes a little, it can give you odd results are where there are abstract shapes, like, when you're creating logos or icons or things like that, where again, it's the whole depth perception. It's not a real world asset that it
Yeah.
can reference to. And hence, this one is the most glitchy one, to be honest. And I don't like showcasing it, but I'll still show everyone. Like, this is where it goes crazy
Interesting.
weird
Yeah.
on one direction, the other. It really doesn't know what is happening in here and how to like perceive this
Yeah, I think that makes
asset.
sense. Like I wouldn't expect that to be playing pretty friendly with turntable.
Yeah, like I mean, in my head, like that's where I think designers come in a lot more. Our imagination is a lot different than this machine imagination, where we can see it like three cylinders and we can,
Yeah.
imagine those rotated. But the system right now is not able to do that because they
Yeah.
don't know if it's a cylinder, what is it that you've created because it's 2D art.
Hmm.
So then you have a lot complicated appearances applied or blend modes applied. I think that's when again it gets a little crazy on, how do I maintain this? With things like logo, it like like how text was, it does its own little bit of depth, but may not be perfect. So again, these are not the best right now to try on. The other things where it goes, you'll see certain errors is where you've selected an artwork with a background. So if you have an artwork like this, it will not know how to add depth with the background. It can add depth when you have a clear subject. Like if I had just selected uh, the rocket in this case, it would have given me a different, view. If you see this example where there is a subject, but it comes with a backdrop, this is again, it doesn't know how to rotate the yellow background and it may just go wonky. But if I go select just the cat and I select turntable, because it's clearly defined as a subject, it's able to do all of these things. So you need that clarity in your selection for it to really do a great job in predicting.
Hmm.
Another use case that I see is, errors may come up when your artwork is too complex. Like in this case, this artwork has crazy amount of parts and it will give you an error, but it's not even an error, it's a warning that,
Mm.
it is a too complicated art, but we can still try. If you want to proceed, you can proceed. And that's where I tried it on this thinking, it may just do go crazy, but to my surprise, it wasn't too bad. Like it did make
Yeah,
sure.
I think about the amount of time it would take someone to try and redraw that at a 15-degree rotation. The amount of time it would save just to like tweak it. If you needed,
Yeah,
I imagine a client being like, "Oh, can you just rotate that?" When it used to be like
yeah,
the industry joke where it was like client sort of requests. So now it's like, okay, yeah, it is achievable. It might take a few hours to tidy it up, but a lot better than trying to redraw it from scratch.
yeah. I mean, it does a good job in those cases as well, mostly. But yeah, there could be certain scenarios where it may not be able to understand what the selection or so many objects in that selection, what does that mean as a composition. Things like this, where I think I remember in the early days, like beginning of this year, when we shared it with pre-release users, they really wanted the scene to turn.
Uh-huh.
And it was a great idea, but the tech right now is a little limiting on right now, but it's not that it will always be limiting.
Hmm.
But in this case, if you try, because you can see there's a background, and there's so many objects on the foreground. It Let me select this. Sorry. It does sort of a thing, but
Hmm.
it tries to, it's almost like a scene creation. It does, like, it's almost like slicing of the
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
Like these are frames, what is in foreground, what is in the background, it does it. But again, may not be the right example to imagine the turntable that we would wish it, the ideal turntable that it should be.
Yeah, but I think, a little bit of tweaking, it's better than starting from scratch, I would say. If you
Yeah.
need to move the background yourself purposefully. But yeah, I know I saw Howard Pinsky. He did some tests with like a nice, I think it was like a tropical backdrop, and I was shocked when I saw that it actually worked with like a landscape. I wasn't even thinking that was possible. And he did a
Yeah.
rotation, and it, built mountains and trees, and it sort of laid it up how you would in After Effects. So yeah, I think it's pretty crazy to like start pushing these things, and I think that's where we start to make breakthroughs is like user testing, seeing how people try to use it, and then is it working, and then developing from there.
And also it helps us to know that if this is something you want it to work with, or you want it to work in a certain way and you share it with us, we definitely do a feasibility check. And we
Mm,
always try that, we give you the best that is possible with the tech that is available.
okay.
So definitely, it's not that this is how it's going to be forever. Maybe soon this may also unlock as a different potential to work with. Lastly, things that it will not will give you certain surprises where the selection is a little, there is no unrecognizable object in it, that what is it supposed to be.
Hmm.
Things like this, where it can still try adding a mask, but may not be perfect. Like, would you expect the other sushi to be the other eye on the other side? Maybe yes, as a designer, but the system doesn't know this right now.
Mm,
What is expected on the other side? But it did a decent job, at least with the one which is there in like a beak kind of a chopstick, but not on the other side as clean. So it
I
does,
tried. Yeah.
sometimes it
Yeah.
does. Like here I can see one happening, but here I didn't. So it's, yeah, this is where it gets little, it'll throw certain surprises at you.
Yeah.
So that's where I would say, like, there are three aspects. One is if there are simple shapes, it may not do a great job. Second, if you are selecting with a background or a very complex art, it will do its best, but again, it's unpredictable.
Hmm.
The third one is where where the selection is a little abstract, that you don't know what the object needs to is and how much depth it needs to have, and that's where it will do some sort of like guesswork
Hmm.
to bring that for you. So yeah, that's all I had. I'm
That's
happy
amazing.
to answer any questions. I
Yeah,
have certain mentions here, but I'm happy to answer anything.
I mean, thank you so much. Like that is actually perfect timing for a couple of questions. I saw in the chat we had one from Teresa who I think it goes back to when we had all the poses laid out and suggesting that it'd be great to have a script generate all of those poses in one click. So I mean, yeah, like immediately you're already like getting further into the efficiency of how this can be sort of leveled up. So, and I know I had a couple of questions that I pulled from our Reddit conversation that I thought it'd be great to get some answers. Let me just, I mean, some people, we already spoke about After Effects, but they were asking, and I mean, it is just like vector art. You can just do whatever you want, like you typically would,
Mm.
working in After Effects. But also, some people are just curious about how much credits and the sort of implications around credit usage, how much it costs in terms of their plans. Do you have any indication about where that's at now, how it might sort of develop in the future? And
Yeah, that's a great question. The good news is that because we're in beta, right now this feature has an exception, a temporary exception, I would say, that while you're using Turntable, no credits are going to be used. But it's temporary till the time we also kind of refine the experience and refine the number of views that we are giving out to users. Right now, you are seeing the maximum. Okay. So I would say, like, use this opportune time to really try out as much as you want because it's free right now.
Great. Um, and just I needed to point out that it is called Project Turntable, but that is kind of open to changing in the future. Hopefully it stays. I think it's actually a really great name, but there's no definite, name
Yeah.
for it yet. But it is built into Illustrator. It's like a feature inside Illustrator. It's not a standalone app, but yeah, I think we're right on time today. But thank you so much for like running us through this. I think
My
it's such an
pleasure.
exciting addition to Illustrator. Like for myself, who started off illustration and went to 3D, it's sort of bringing me back to like how I can get more out of like one illustration. But yeah, please, if you want to join in the conversation, head to every forum we're on. We've got the Adobe Community Forum, we've got the Illustrator subreddit, we have user voice, Illustrator on Discord. But yeah, we're all there. We would love to hear your thoughts, how you're using it, how it could be improved. And yeah, like the community really drives the impact of these developments. And the special thanks to the pre-release team. I get to listen to their conversations, and they're just very active, very like just knowledgeable, experienced team that it's been great for me to learn a lot from like how they share and how they think. So,
Mhm.
if you want to join that, let us know. But yeah, get in the beta, test it out. But
And definitely give us feedback even in beta.
yeah,
You have thumbs up, thumbs down. That also gives us a good indication of what is working, where it's not working, and you can give us detailed feedback inside the application as well. The minute you do thumbs down, there's a form, you fill it in. Whichever view is wonky, that helps the team to rectify the issue faster.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tanya. It was a
You're
really
most welcome.
insightful presentation. I'm glad
Thank
that
you.
everyone has the chance to like go back and review this, and then I'm sure everybody will test the turntable some more.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you everyone for listening in. Thank you, Luke, for having me.
Have a good
Take
night.
care.
Bye.